Stop right there. Let her go. You with her against her will?
What? No,
We're
she's
on a
my
date.
girlfriend.
It's fine, officer.
Ma'am, step back from me.
I'm just getting my
Hands
wallet
behind
back.
your back, now.
I haven't done anything. Officer, this is a mistake. I'm recording.
You good? Got him. Step back, ma'am. Door shut.
Pay attention to this couple walking hand in hand through Lincoln Park. The man is Gabriel Williams, a 28-year-old marketing executive enjoying a peaceful Friday morning with his girlfriend. The woman beside him is Charlotte Aniston, a 26-year-old graphic designer who has no idea she's about to witness her boyfriend's civil rights being violated. Now, watch the police car in the background making that U-turn. Behind the wheel is Officer James Lee, a 15-year veteran of the Chicago Police Department. In less than 3 minutes, he will arrest Gabriel Williams for the crime of walking while black with a white woman. What Officer Lee doesn't know is that this single act of racial profiling will cost him his career and the city $5 million. This is September 14th, 2018, 11 a.m. The moment when a routine morning walk became a federal case. Gabriel Williams was the kind of man who believed in routine. Every weekday at 7 in the morning, he would lace up his running shoes and jog the 3 miles from his Lincoln Park apartment to his office at Morrison & Associates, a mid-sized marketing firm in downtown Chicago. At 28, Gabriel had built what many would consider an exemplary life. After graduating with honors from Northwestern University in 2012, he had steadily climbed the corporate ladder, earning respect from colleagues and clients alike for his creativity and work ethic. Gabriel's apartment on North Cleveland Avenue reflected his disciplined nature: clean lines, minimal furniture, and walls adorned with framed certificates and photographs from his volunteer work at the Lincoln Park Youth Center. For the past 3 years, Gabriel had spent his Saturday mornings mentoring teenagers, helping them with college applications and job interview skills. His criminal record was spotless, not even a parking ticket. In a city where young black men often face suspicion and scrutiny, Gabriel had navigated his professional and personal life with careful attention to perception and presentation. Charlotte Aniston had moved to Chicago in 2016 with nothing but a graphic design degree from the University of Wisconsin and an unwavering determination to build her freelance career. At 26, she had carved out a niche designing marketing materials for nonprofit organizations, work that aligned with her values and provided steady income. Charlotte's warm personality and creative talent had quickly earned her a network of friends and professional contacts throughout the city. The couple had met 8 months earlier at a fundraising gala for the Chicago Children's Hospital, where Charlotte was volunteering as the event photographer and Gabriel was representing his firm's pro bono marketing services. Their connection was immediate and genuine. Charlotte's family in Wisconsin had embraced Gabriel from their first meeting, and her social media accounts were filled with photos of their adventures around the city. Weekend mornings often found them exploring different neighborhoods, trying new restaurants, or simply walking along Lake Michigan's shoreline. Officer James Lee presented a different picture entirely. At 42, Lee was a 15-year veteran of the Chicago Police Department with what appeared to be an unblemished record. His personnel file contained commendations for community service and several letters of appreciation from citizens. Lee lived in the Dunning neighborhood on Chicago's northwest side with his wife of 18 years and their 2 teenage children. To his neighbors, he was a dedicated family man who coached Little League baseball and attended church every Sunday. However, Lee's recent assignment to the Lincoln Park beat represented a significant change in his career trajectory. The 18th District had undergone restructuring in early 2018, and Lee had been transferred from his longtime position in the Albany Park area, where he had developed relationships and familiarity over more than a decade. The Lincoln Park neighborhood presented different demographics and challenges, with its mix of young professionals, families, and tourists creating a more diverse and transient population than Lee had previously policed. September 14th, 2018 began like countless other Friday mornings for Gabriel and Charlotte. The weather forecast promised a perfect early fall day with clear skies and temperatures reaching the high 60s. Gabriel had taken the day off from work to extend their weekend, and Charlotte had completed a major project for a client the previous evening. Their plan was simple: a leisurely walk through Lincoln Park, perhaps a visit to the zoo, and lunch at their favorite cafe on North Avenue. At 10:30 that morning, Gabriel knocked on Charlotte's door, carrying 2 cups of coffee from the shop downstairs from his apartment. Charlotte emerged wearing jeans and a light sweater, her camera bag slung over her shoulder in case they encountered interesting photo opportunities. The couple's easy banter and obvious affection were evident to anyone who observed them as they made their way toward the park. Lincoln Park itself was bustling with typical Friday morning activity. Joggers followed the lakefront trail, parents pushed strollers along the pathways, and tourists consulted maps while planning their visits to the zoo and conservatory. The atmosphere was relaxed and welcoming, the kind of urban oasis that drew residents and visitors alike to one of Chicago's most beloved neighborhoods. Officer Lee had begun his shift at 7 that morning with routine patrol duties. His first few hours were unremarkable. A minor traffic accident on Lakeshore Drive, a noise complaint that was resolved without incident, and regular security checks at local businesses. Body camera footage from earlier in his shift shows Lee interacting professionally with citizens during routine encounters, giving no indication of what would unfold later that morning. The warning signs that would later seem obvious were invisible to everyone except those who knew Lee well. His patrol partner had called in sick that morning, leaving Lee to work alone. Radio communications from the early hours of his shift reveal a gradually increasing irritability in Lee's voice as he responded to dispatcher calls. More significantly, GPS data from his patrol car would later show that Lee had driven through Lincoln Park 3 times before the incident, an unusual pattern that suggested he was observing rather than simply patrolling. At the Morrison and Associates office, Gabriel's colleagues were accustomed to his Friday morning emails, usually sent during his commute, updating them on project timelines and client communications. That morning, no such email arrived. Gabriel's phone remained silent, his attention focused entirely on the woman beside him and the simple pleasure of a morning walk in one of the city's most beautiful spaces. At exactly 10:58 a.m., security cameras at the Lincoln Park Zoo entrance captured Gabriel Williams and Charlotte Aniston entering the frame from the west side of the park. The couple moved with the unhurried pace of people enjoying their morning, stopping briefly at the large park map posted near the zoo's main gate. Charlotte pointed toward the lakefront trail, while Gabriel nodded in agreement, their body language reflecting the easy comfort of a couple making simple decisions together. The zoo entrance camera continued recording as other park visitors moved through the scene. A family with young children passed by, heading toward the children's farm exhibit. 2 women in running gear jogged past, deep in conversation about weekend plans. An elderly man walked his golden retriever along the pathway, stopping to allow the dog to investigate interesting scents. The scene was utterly ordinary, the kind of peaceful urban moment that plays out in parks across America every day. At 10:59 a.m., the camera captured something that would later prove significant. In the background, barely visible at the edge of the frame, a Chicago Police Department patrol car moved slowly along Lakeshore Drive. The vehicle appeared to be conducting routine patrol, but the timestamp would later establish that Officer James Lee had already observed the couple before making his fateful decision to intervene. Gabriel and Charlotte began walking toward the lakefront trail at exactly 11:00 a.m., moving out of the zoo camera's range and into the coverage area of the traffic light security system at Lakeshore Drive and Fullerton. This high-mounted camera, designed primarily to monitor traffic violations, captured a much wider view of the area and would provide the most complete visual record of what happened next. At 11:15, the traffic camera recorded Officer Lee's patrol car making an abrupt U-turn on Lakeshore Drive. The maneuver was sudden and purposeful, cutting across 2 lanes of traffic to reach the park's parking area. Gabriel and Charlotte appeared as small figures in the distance, walking hand in hand along the lakefront path, completely unaware that they had become the focus of police attention. Officer Lee exited his vehicle at 11:58, his movements captured by the traffic camera as he began walking with obvious purpose toward the couple. Lee's pace was rapid and determined, covering the approximately 100 yards between his patrol car and the walking path in less than a minute. His approach came from behind, giving Gabriel and Charlotte no indication that they were being observed or followed. The body camera footage from Officer Lee's uniform began recording automatically when he exited his patrol car, as was standard protocol. The device captured Lee's perspective as he approached the couple, revealing his heavy breathing and muttered comments that would later be analyzed by audio experts. Lee's commentary during the approach included phrases like, "Let's see what we have here," and "This doesn't look right." statements that would prove crucial in establishing his mindset and intentions. At 11:01:32, Lee called out, "Hey!" in a loud, authoritative voice that caused both Gabriel and Charlotte to turn around simultaneously. The traffic camera captured their surprised reaction, showing both individuals stopping immediately and turning to face the approaching officer. Their body language displayed confusion rather than alarm, suggesting they had no reason to expect police interaction. The Lincoln Park Conservatory's external security camera provided the clearest and most detailed footage of the confrontation itself. This camera, positioned at an optimal angle and distance, captured the encounter with sufficient clarity to analyze facial expressions, hand gestures, and the overall dynamics between the three individuals involved. Officer Lee pointed directly at Gabriel Williams while reaching for his radio with his free hand, a gesture that established his authority while simultaneously calling for backup. Gabriel's hands immediately rose in what body language experts would later identify as a universal gesture of non-aggression and compliance. Charlotte moved closer to Gabriel's side, her posture protective but non-threatening. At 11:02:45, Gabriel reached slowly toward his back pocket, a movement that security footage clearly showed was deliberate and non-threatening. Later testimony would establish that Gabriel was retrieving his wallet to provide identification as requested by Officer Lee. However, Lee's reaction was immediate and aggressive. The officer stepped forward quickly, grabbing Gabriel's arm and forcing him toward a nearby park bench. The conservatory camera captured Charlotte's attempt to intervene at 11:03:15. She stepped forward with her hands raised, clearly trying to explain something to Officer Lee. Audio analysis of her cell phone video, which she began recording at this point, captured her saying, "Officer, we're just walking in the park. This is my boyfriend Gabriel." Lee's response, also captured on multiple recording devices, was to order Charlotte to step back and stop interfering. At 11:03:58, handcuffs became visible in the security footage as Officer Lee restrained Gabriel Williams. The video clearly showed that Gabriel offered no physical resistance, keeping his hands visible and complying with Lee's commands despite his obvious confusion and distress. Gabriel's repeated question, "What did I do?" was audible on multiple recording devices, highlighting his genuine bewilderment at the situation. The arrest attracted attention from other park visitors, and by 11:04:30, approximately 8 to 10 people had gathered at a respectful distance to observe the incident. Several individuals could be seen recording the encounter on their cell phones, creating multiple independent records of the event. The crowd's body language and positioning suggested concern rather than support for the police action, with several people appearing to comfort Charlotte as she continued recording. Officer Lee's radio communications during this period, captured by the department's recording system, revealed his request for backup and his initial report of the incident. Lee's description of Gabriel as a suspicious individual matching a robbery suspect description would later be contradicted by the complete absence of any robbery reports in the area that day, or any physical resemblance between Gabriel and any actual suspects. Gabriel Williams spent the next 6 hours in a holding cell at the 18th District Police Station, charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. The charges were processed routinely, with no indication from the arresting paperwork that anything unusual had occurred during the arrest. Officer Lee's incident report described Gabriel as agitated and non-compliant, claims that would soon be contradicted by multiple forms of video evidence. Charlotte Aniston waited in the station lobby for 3 hours before Gabriel was released on his own recognizance. Her cell phone video, captured during the arrest, remained stored on her device as she focused on securing Gabriel's release and understanding the charges against him. At 2:30 p.m., approximately 30 minutes after Gabriel's release, Charlotte uploaded the 90-second video to her Instagram account with the caption, "This is what racial profiling looks like in Chicago." The video's spread across social media platforms was swift and exponential. Within 2 hours, Charlotte's Instagram post had been shared to Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok by friends and strangers alike. The footage clearly contradicted the official police narrative, showing Gabriel's compliance and confusion throughout the encounter. By 8 p.m. that evening, the video had accumulated over 100,000 views and hundreds of comments expressing outrage and support. Local news stations began monitoring the social media activity by Friday evening with assignment editors, recognizing the potential significance of the story. The Chicago Tribune's digital team reached out to Charlotte through social media, requesting an interview. By Saturday morning, the video had reached 2.3 million views across all platforms, transforming a local incident into a national conversation about police conduct and racial profiling. The Chicago Police Department's phone system was overwhelmed by Friday evening, receiving 847 complaint calls between 6 p.m. and midnight. The volume of calls was unprecedented for a single incident, forcing the department to establish additional phone lines and assign extra personnel to handle the response. Callers demanded information about the arrest, Officer Lee's employment status, and the department's planned investigation into the incident. Superintendent Eddie Johnson was briefed on the situation Friday evening while attending a police union dinner. The combination of viral video evidence and public outcry prompted Johnson to cut short his evening and return to headquarters. By 10:00 p.m. Friday, the Internal Affairs Division had opened a preliminary investigation into Officer Lee's conduct, with orders to expedite the review process given the public attention. Civil rights organizations responded quickly to the viral video. The Chicago chapter of the NAACP contacted Gabriel's family Saturday morning, offering legal assistance and advocacy support. The American Civil Liberties Union of Illinois issued a statement by Saturday afternoon, calling for a thorough investigation and accountability for what they termed a clear violation of constitutional rights. The retrieval and analysis of police body camera footage began Saturday morning under the supervision of Internal Affairs investigators. The department's digital forensics team worked through the weekend to compile all available video evidence, including Officer Lee's body camera, patrol car dashboard camera, and any additional footage from nearby units that may have responded to the scene. Security camera footage from 5 different sources was identified and requested by investigators. The Lincoln Park Zoo provided their entrance camera footage immediately, while the Chicago Department of Transportation supplied the traffic light camera recordings from Lakeshore Drive and Fullerton. The Lincoln Park Conservancy cooperated fully, providing high-definition footage from their external security system that captured the clearest view of the actual arrest. 3 additional witnesses came forward over the weekend with cell phone videos of the incident, each providing different angles and perspectives of the encounter. Margaret Chen, a tourist from California, had recorded the approach and initial contact between Officer Lee and the couple. David Rodriguez, a local resident who was jogging in the area, captured footage of Gabriel being handcuffed and placed in the patrol car. Sarah Mitchell recorded the aftermath, showing Charlotte's distress and the gathering crowd of concerned onlookers. Social media analysis revealed that posts geotagged to Lincoln Park on September 14th between 10:30 and 11:30 a.m. provided additional timeline verification. Instagram and Facebook posts from other park visitors showed the normal, peaceful atmosphere before and after the incident. Several posts inadvertently captured Gabriel and Charlotte in the background before the arrest, confirming their relaxed demeanor and normal behavior. Officer Lee's patrol car GPS data became a crucial piece of evidence when investigators accessed the vehicle's tracking system. The data revealed that Lee had driven through Lincoln Park 3 times between 10:00 and 11:00 a.m., an unusual pattern that suggested surveillance rather than routine patrol. The GPS timestamps correlated precisely with security camera footage showing Lee's patrol car in the vicinity before the arrest. Radio transmission recordings from the Chicago Police Department's Communications Center provided another layer of evidence contradicting Lee's justification for the arrest. A comprehensive review of all radio traffic between 9:00 and 12:00 a.m. on September 14th revealed no robbery reports, suspicious person calls, or any other incidents in the Lincoln Park area that would have justified Lee's actions. The digital evidence compilation process revealed the thoroughness of the electronic record. Between body cameras, security systems, cell phone videos, GPS tracking, and radio communications, investigators had assembled nearly 3 hours of audio and video documentation of the incident and its immediate aftermath. This wealth of digital evidence would prove unprecedented in a Chicago police misconduct case, providing multiple independent corroborations of the same sequence of events. By Monday morning, the preliminary investigation had expanded to include a review of Officer Lee's recent arrest patterns and citizen complaints. The department's data analysis unit was tasked with examining Lee's arrest statistics, use of force reports, and any correlation between the race of arrestees and the charges filed. This broader investigation would reveal patterns that extended far beyond the September 14th incident. Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson arrived at Chicago Police Department headquarters Monday morning, facing a crisis that threatened to undermine public confidence in the entire department. The viral video had generated national media attention, with major news networks requesting interviews and civil rights leaders calling for immediate action. Johnson's first decision was to order a comprehensive investigation that would extend beyond the immediate incident to examine systemic issues within the department. Officer James Lee was placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation, a standard procedure that removed him from active duty while maintaining his employment status. Lee's police union representative, Attorney Michael Torino, was assigned to defend the officer's interests and ensure his due process rights were protected. The Fraternal Order of Police issued a statement calling for patience while the investigation proceeded, emphasizing Lee's 15 years of service and previously clean record. The FBI Civil Rights Division opened a parallel federal investigation Tuesday morning, recognizing that the incident potentially violated federal civil rights statutes. Special Agent Patricia Morrison was assigned as the lead investigator, bringing expertise in police misconduct cases and Section 1983 civil rights violations. The federal investigation would proceed independently of the Chicago Police Department's internal review, providing an additional layer of scrutiny and potential criminal liability. Corporation Counsel Edward Siskel, Chicago's top legal advisor, began preparing the city's legal strategy in anticipation of a civil lawsuit. The strength of the video evidence made defending the officer's actions virtually impossible, leading Siskel to recommend settlement negotiations rather than protracted litigation. The city's insurance carrier was notified of the potential claim, beginning the complex process of determining coverage and liability limits. The investigation into Officer Lee's background revealed disturbing patterns that had previously escaped official notice. A comprehensive review of his 15-year service record uncovered 3 previous excessive force complaints that had been dismissed without significant investigation. The complaints, filed in 2014, 2016, and 2017, all involved encounters with black citizens and contained similar allegations of aggressive behavior and racial bias. Former patrol partners came forward reluctantly to provide testimony about Lee's conduct and attitudes. Officer Maria Santos, who had worked with Lee for 2 years in the Albany Park District, described his frequent comments about interracial relationships and his belief that black men were inherently dangerous. Santos admitted that she had never reported these comments, citing the department's culture of loyalty and fear of retaliation. Detective Robert Chen provided even more damaging testimony, recalling specific incidents where Lee had expressed racist views during breaks and off-duty conversations. Chen's statement described Lee's reaction to the 2016 shooting of Laquan McDonald, where Lee had defended the officer involved and criticized protesters as thugs and criminals. These revelations painted a picture of deep-seated racial bias that extended far beyond a single incident. The psychological evaluation ordered as part of the investigation was conducted by Dr. Amanda Foster, a clinical psychologist specializing in law enforcement mental health. Dr. Foster's assessment revealed concerning attitudes about race and authority that suggested Lee was unsuitable for police work in a diverse urban environment. Her report recommended immediate termination and counseling, noting that Lee's biases posed a danger to public safety. Data analysis of Lee's arrest patterns provided statistical evidence of discriminatory policing practices. Since his assignment to the Lincoln Park beat in January 2018, Lee's arrests of black suspects occurred at a rate 73% higher than the district average. The charges filed in these arrests were disproportionately minor offenses like disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, suggesting that Lee was creating confrontations rather than responding to actual criminal behavior. Review of body camera footage from Lee's previous encounters revealed a disturbing pattern of escalation with black citizens. In 12 incidents over 8 months, Lee consistently approached black individuals more aggressively than white citizens in similar situations. Audio analysis showed that Lee's tone and language varied significantly based on the race of the person he was addressing, providing clear evidence of the differential treatment. Community members came forward with additional incident reports that had never been formally filed. Marcus Williams, a Lincoln Park resident and investment banker, described being stopped by Lee 3 times while walking to work, each time being questioned about his presence in the neighborhood despite living there for 5 years. Angela Rodriguez, a nurse at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, reported being aggressively questioned by Lee while visiting a patient's family in the area. The Chicago Police Department's review board concluded that the problems extended beyond Officer Lee to encompass training deficiencies and supervisory failures. Lee had missed 4 mandatory bias training sessions over the previous 2 years, violations that should have resulted in disciplinary action but were overlooked by his supervisors. The department's early warning system, designed to identify problematic officers, had failed to flag Lee despite clear indicators of concerning behavior. Captain Jennifer Walsh, Lee's immediate supervisor in the 18th District, faced scrutiny for her failure to recognize and address Lee's pattern of misconduct. Walsh's own review of arrest reports and citizen complaints should have identified the statistical anomalies in Lee's policing, but she admitted to conducting only cursory reviews of officer performance. Her oversight failure contributed to the department's decision to implement enhanced supervisory training and accountability measures. The investigation's scope expanded to examine whether other officers in the district exhibited similar patterns of racial bias. A comprehensive analysis of arrest data revealed that while Lee was the most egregious example, several other officers showed statistical disparities that warranted further investigation. This discovery prompted a district-wide review that would ultimately result in additional disciplinary actions and training requirements. By November 2018, the investigation had compiled over 500 pages of evidence, including video footage, witness statements, psychological evaluations, and statistical analysis. The thoroughness of the investigation reflected both the seriousness of the allegations and the department's recognition that public trust hung in the balance. The evidence painted an unmistakable picture of an officer whose racial bias had corrupted his ability to serve and protect all citizens equally. The Internal Affairs investigation concluded on December 15, 2018, after 3 months of comprehensive review and analysis. The final report detailed Officer James Lee's violations of department policy, constitutional rights, and professional standards. Chief Administrator Patricia Gonzalez found Lee guilty of civil rights violations, excessive force, filing false reports, and conduct unbecoming an officer. The evidence was so overwhelming that the review board reached its unanimous decision in less than 2 hours of deliberation. Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson announced Officer Lee's termination on December 18, 2018, during a press conference attended by local media and civil rights leaders. Johnson emphasized that the Chicago Police Department would not tolerate racial bias or misconduct, stating that Lee's actions violated the trust that communities place in law enforcement. The termination was immediate and included forfeiture of pension benefits and revocation of Lee's law enforcement certification. The Fraternal Order of Police filed an appeal on Lee's behalf, arguing that the punishment was excessive and that procedural errors had compromised the investigation. Union attorney Michael Torino claimed that Lee's due process rights had been violated and requested reinstatement with back pay. However, the appeal failed when confronted with the extensive video evidence and witness testimony. The Illinois Labor Relations Board upheld the termination after reviewing the complete investigative file. Gabriel Williams retained prominent civil rights attorney Marcus Thompson in January 2019, 3 months after Officer Lee's termination. Thompson, who had successfully represented victims of police misconduct in landmark cases across the country, recognized the strength of the evidence and the potential for significant monetary damages. The decision to pursue federal litigation was made after the criminal justice system failed to adequately address the violation of Williams' constitutional rights. The federal lawsuit, filed on March 15, 2019, sought $5 million in damages against both Officer Lee personally and the city of Chicago. The complaint alleged violations of the 4th and 14th Amendments under Section 1983 of the Federal Civil Rights Code, as well as claims for emotional distress, damage to reputation, and loss of income. Thompson argued that the incident had caused lasting psychological trauma and damaged Williams' standing in his professional community. The lawsuit detailed the systemic failures that enabled Lee's misconduct, including inadequate training, poor supervision, and a culture that discouraged reporting of racial bias. Thompson's legal strategy focused on establishing municipal liability, arguing that the city of Chicago was responsible for creating conditions that allowed discriminatory policing to flourish. The complaint cited statistical evidence showing patterns of racial profiling throughout the police department. The city of Chicago's initial response was to contest the lawsuit through Corporation Counsel Edward Siskel's office. City attorneys argued that Lee's actions were unauthorized and that the municipality should not bear financial responsibility for an individual officer's misconduct. However, this strategy quickly proved untenable when confronted with evidence of supervisory failures and systemic problems within the department. Settlement negotiations began in earnest during the summer of 2019, as both sides recognized the risks of proceeding to trial. The city's insurance carrier, concerned about potential jury sympathy for Williams and the strength of the video evidence, recommended settlement rather than litigation. The negotiations were complicated by the precedent that any settlement would establish for future police misconduct cases. The civil case was resolved through confidential settlement in September 2019, with terms that were never officially disclosed. However, court documents and legal sources confirmed that Williams received a settlement consistent with his original $5 million demand. The agreement included provisions requiring the city of Chicago to implement comprehensive police reform measures, including enhanced bias training and improved oversight of officer conduct. Officer James Lee faced federal criminal charges for civil rights violations under Title 18, Section 242 of the United States Code, which criminalizes the willful deprivation of constitutional rights under color of law. U.S. Attorney John Lausch announced the charges in October 2019, emphasizing the federal government's commitment to prosecuting law enforcement officers who violate citizens' civil rights. Lee's criminal trial was scheduled for March 2020, but was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Faced with overwhelming evidence and the prospect of a lengthy federal prison sentence, Lee's defense attorney negotiated a plea agreement with federal prosecutors. The agreement required Lee to accept responsibility for his actions and cooperate with ongoing investigations into police misconduct within the Chicago Police Department. The plea agreement, finalized in August 2020, sentenced Lee to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. Lee served 14 months of his sentence at a federal correctional facility in Wisconsin before being released early for good behavior. The conviction permanently barred him from any future employment in law enforcement and required him to complete community service and anger management counseling. The Chicago Police Department implemented sweeping reforms in response to the incident and subsequent investigation. Superintendent Johnson announced mandatory implicit bias training for all officers, enhanced oversight of arrest patterns, and improved early warning systems to identify problematic behavior. The department also established a civilian oversight board with authority to investigate misconduct complaints independently. Gabriel Williams used his settlement to establish the Williams Foundation for Police Accountability, a nonprofit organization providing legal assistance to victims of police misconduct. The foundation has supported dozens of civil rights cases and advocates for legislative reforms to prevent racial profiling. Williams became a sought-after speaker on criminal justice reform, sharing his story at universities, conferences, and community organizations across the country. Charlotte Aniston and Gabriel Williams married in a small ceremony in August 2020, with their wedding taking place virtually due to pandemic restrictions. Charlotte continued her graphic design work while supporting the foundation's mission through pro bono marketing and communication services. The couple remains active in Lincoln Park, where they still take morning walks, now accompanied by their young daughter, born in 2021. The case has become a landmark precedent for civil rights litigation against law enforcement agencies. Legal scholars cite the Williams settlement as evidence that substantial monetary damages can be awarded when clear video evidence documents constitutional violations. The case is now studied in law schools nationwide as an example of successful Section 1983 litigation. Officer Lee's current whereabouts remain largely unknown, as he relocated outside of Illinois following his release from federal prison. Former colleagues report that Lee has struggled to find stable employment due to his criminal conviction and termination from the police department. His family moved away from Chicago during his incarceration, seeking privacy and distance from the public attention surrounding the case. The documentary's examination of this case reveals how a single moment of racial bias can destroy careers, transform lives, and cost taxpayers millions of dollars. More importantly, it demonstrates how video evidence and community activism can hold law enforcement accountable and drive meaningful reform in police practices.